Tengri exhaled, and the celestial blue fire ignited the stagnant void. 3 worlds shattered apart, forcing a choice between creation and eternal darkness. You were told these rituals were lost, but the spirits never actually left. Long before the empires of the East and West rose to claim the earth, the vast wind-swept plains of the Altai Mountains, this was the age of the first Kam, the sacred intermediary chosen to bridge the gap between the divine sky and the iron-rimmed pits of the underworld. The great Sky Father, the eternal indigo sovereign, looked down from the highest peak of Utsmog, where the air is pure spirit and the stars are the campfires of the ancestors. He saw a world in chaos, a realm where the middle world of Yersu was bleeding into the obsidian, bone-chilling depths of Tama, ruled by the envious Erlik Khan. To restore the Tura, the sacred cosmic law that binds the stars to the moving soil, Tengri reached into the very center of the sun and pulled forth a spark of Kut. This was the divine life force, a burning soul energy granted only to those who could maintain the balance of existence. He breathed this sacred fire into the first Kam, elevating him to a designated Orun, a spiritual rank that allowed his soul to take flight while his body remained anchored to the earth. As the first wooden drum began to pulse like a thunderous heart against the ribs of the world, a new era began. The Kam stood upon the jagged, snow-dusted ridges of the Altai Mountains, his eyes reflecting the infinite blue of the heavens, becoming the living bridge between the mortal and the divine. The Altai Mountains do not merely touch the sky. They are the jagged teeth of the earth biting into the hem of the heavens. Here, in the shadow of peaks that have never known the warmth of a summer sun, the geography of the soul is etched into the very stone and snow. At the center of this sacred wilderness stands the Bayterik, the world tree, a silver birch of such impossible height that its roots drink from the cold rivers of the underworld, while its highest branches cradle the stars of the upper world. To the Kam, this is not a metaphor. It is the ladder of existence, the axis upon which all life turns. But to climb such a tree, one does not use hands and feet. One uses the resonance of the universe itself, a vibration that echoes from the core of the earth to the doorstep of Tengri. The Kam prepares for the celestial flight in a silence so profound, it feels heavy. For the spirit's first comes the ritual purification by arson, the sacred Siberian juniper. Its sharp, sweet smoke curls like silver snakes around the practitioner, biting through the thin veil between what is seen and what is hidden. Then the Kam reaches for the dungur, the sacred drum. This is no mere instrument of music. Carved from the resilient wood of the larch and draped in the skin of a horse that once galloped across the endless steppe, the drum is the Kam's mount. When the rhythmic beat begins, accelerating to the frantic heartbeat pulse of a bird in flight, surpassing 200 beats per minute, the drum transforms. It becomes the stallion of the spirit, carrying the soul across the vast invisible distances toward the upper world. Upon its skin, drawn in ochre and soot, is a map of the entire cosmos, the sun, the moon, and the spirit helpers who guard the treacherous path. Against the chest rests the kuzungu, the heavy copper mirror. In the flickering firelight of the ceremony, it gleams with an ancient predatory intelligence. It is the Kam's shield, forged to deflect the invisible evil arrows of malevolence that haunt the borders of reality. Yet, it is also a third eye. Through its polished, reflective surface, the Kam sees what no mortal eye could ever endure. The shifting shadows of ancestors and the shimmering, terrifying beauty of the Yersu, the spirits that dwell in every rock, every tool, every eagle feather, and every rusting bell on the shaman's heavy costume has its Orun, its designated place in the divine order. Without this meticulous architecture of the sacred, a human soul would be torn asunder by the raw, unbridled winds of the spirit realms. In the Altai, The distance between a man and a god is exactly the width of a drumbeat. The Karakam does not walk into the dark. He rides the rhythm of the universe, clutching the frame of his dungar, carved from the sacred larch of the Altai slopes. He begins the frantic gallop of the human soul. The smoke of burning arson swirls around his face like silver ghosts, cleansing the air of human scent so that the spirits of the abyss might not detect his living pulse. He is no longer a man of flesh. He is a celestial bridge. As the beat of the drum reaches 200 strikes per minute, the floor of his yurt seems to dissolve into a shifting sea of black sand. He descends. Downwards he plunges, through the 9 iron layers of the earth, where the roots of the world tree, the Bay Terek, twist like agonized serpents. Here in the sunless realm of Tama, the air tastes of sulfur and ancient bronze. He adjusts the copper kuzungu upon his chest, the metal mirror gleaming with a cold protective fire to deflect the evil arrows sent by the lords of the dark. Everything they believed up to this point was wrong. We often imagine the underworld as a place of chaotic fire, but the Kam finds a silent, orderly kingdom of iron and ice ruled by the very first of the created beings. At the center of this frozen, subterranean abyss sits Erlik Khan, the Lord of Shadows, his eyes burning like dying stars beneath a crown of 9 horns. The Karakam stands small before this titan of the depths, yet he does not tremble. He has come to bargain for a stolen cut, the divine life force that Erlik covets like a miser hides gold. The ground beneath them groans with the weight of uncounted centuries. Erlik speaks with a voice that sounds like grinding stones, demanding the ultimate payment of a black-coated sacrifice to be offered on the middle world's soil. The Kam negotiates with the cunning of a fox and the steel of a mountain warrior, knowing that one false word or a single moment of fear will bind him to this iron dark throne for eternity. He dances upon the edge of oblivion, his spirit a flickering candle in a hurricane of ancient malice, fighting to bring life back to a world that has forgotten the terrible cost of its own existence. In the sacred cradle of the Orkhon Valley, where the grass ripples like a green sea under the infinite blue of Kuktengri, a different kind of power was forged, one that bound the spirit of the heavens to the iron will of the earth. Here, in the 8th century, the Second Turkic Khaganate reached its zenith, led by the legendary Bilge Khagan and his warrior brother, Kul Tigin. They were more than mere rulers. They were the physical manifestations of the divine mandate. To the Turkic people, the legitimacy of a Khagan was not won by the sword alone, but granted by the sky god through the infusion of Kut, that shimmering golden life force that turned a mortal man. As the sun dipped behind the jagged horizon of the Altai, Bilge Khagan stood before the great white stones that would become his eternal testament. Beside him stood the Kams, their faces weathered like the mountains. With every rhythmic beat of the ritual drums, the boundary between the ruler and the divine thinned. The Kams did not just advise, they verified. They watched the flight of the sacred falcons and the patterns of the stars to ensure that the Torah, the unyielding customary law, remained in perfect alignment with the laws of the universe. "I, the Tengri-like and Tengri-born Turkic Bilge Khagan," he declared, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. His words were not meant for his contemporaries alone, but were etched deep into the stone in 732 and 735 CE, creating the first written. He spoke of Umay Ana, the goddess of fertility, who protected the births of his people, and of the sacred Yersu spirits of the earth and water. He warned that if the people lost their connection to the sky, if they traded their Torah for the soft comforts of foreign lands, their cut would evaporate like the morning mist. This was the covenant. The Khagan protected the people's souls through ritual and justice, and in return, the heavens granted the strength to conquer the 4 corners of the world. Even as Kultigin's banners fluttered in the gale, the real power resided in the silent communion between the Khagan and the sky, a secret pact that ensured every drop of blood spilled on the back. This was the moment where the spiritual became political, where the shaman's drum and the ruler's decree became a single, thunderous heartbeat for an entire civilization. As the centuries turned and the Great Silk Road carried new ideas across the vast steppe, many Turkic tribes began to bow toward the setting sun in the mosques of Islam or sit in the silent meditations of Buddhism. Yet the old ways did not vanish. They simply learned the art of the shadow. The Kut, that divine life force granted by Kuk Tengri, did not leave the people. It transformed, weaving itself into the very fabric of daily life. Even as the high ritual of the Kamlani became rarer, mothers still poured lead in the ancient way of kurşun dökme to heal their children, and travelers still tied a simple piece of cloth to the branches of a lone birch tree, honoring the spirits of years. This was a testament to the Torah, the cosmic law of harmony that no new faith could ever fully erase. But a darker winter was yet to come. In the 1920s and 1930s, the world changed again, and the iron hand of the Soviet Union sought to silence. Across the Altai and the Altai Mountains, the Kams were hunted. Their sacred drums were shattered, and their copper mirrors, the kuzungu that reflected the spirit world, were confiscated or buried. Many of these wise intermediaries, who once bridged the gap between the mortal and the divine, it seemed as though the ancient line had finally snapped, and the flame of Tengrism had been extinguished in the cold snows of Siberia. However, the roots of the world tree run deeper than any political decree. In the 1990s, as the old empires crumbled, a long-dormant seed began to stir. In the Republic of Tuva, the Altai Republic, and Saka, the beat of the horsehide drum returned. This was more than a mere historical curiosity. It was a renaissance of the soul. Today, the modern Kam stands as a guardian of a cultural identity that refused to die. These men and women, with their high-cheekboned faces weathered by the steppe wind and eyes that seem to look through the veil of reality, carry the same bronze mirrors their ancestors did. Whether it is in the institutionalized shamanic clinics of the Dangur Society or the oral mastery of the Yakut Olanko epic, now honored as a masterpiece of humanity by UNESCO, the voice of the ancestors is loud once more. It reminds us that we are not masters of the world, but participants in a sacred dance between the heavens of the upper world and the deep mysteries of the lower, led by Umay Ana. The ancient stories still speak to us. Subscribe to hear. Tell us in the comments.